Good afternoon. Welcome to Studio Sonar. My name is Michael. I'm the general manager of The Beacon, a community of innovative companies located in Antwerp. Our mission as a community is to foster collaboration between our members and our founding partners, such as the Port of Antwerp, the University of Antwerp, and IMEC. At this stage, we are approximately 90 companies, all active in digital technology and all eager to collaborate. We foster this collaboration by providing these companies a place to work, to meet, and to see each other, by providing contacts to other members of the community, to our founding partners, and to other interesting third parties, organizing events, and last but not least, by initiating collaboration projects ourselves. So we don't only want to talk, we also want to walk. And this is what we're going to do today. I'm very pleased that today we can kick off a campaign that is a joint effort between NxtPort, one of the first residents and members of The Beacon, and ourselves, The Beacon. And the campaign is aimed at developing the nerve center for better and more applications that can run on the NxtPort platform. NxtPort has undergone a couple of very interesting evolutions in the past months, which provide a lot of opportunities for technology companies, but also for companies in the ports and in logistics. And being The Beacon, we want to make the match between supply and demand of applications. So today, the kickoff of a campaign of multiple events, and we have a very interesting program that is threefold. First of all, we'll have Geert de Wilde, who is the CCO of NxtPort International, and he will present the platform, what it can do, what data it contains, and what it can mean for you as an application builder or as a company in ports of logistics. After that, we'll have 3 founders and CEOs of companies that have already developed applications that are running at this very moment on NxtPort. And they will give a testimonial about their journey, how the collaboration with NxtPort has emerged, and what it benefits to them. And last but not least, we'll have a delegation from Vopak, which not only is a partner in NxtPort International, but is also a beneficiary of applications that run on the platform. So there will be plenty of opportunities for Q&A during the session. I'll pause at the end of each of the 3 blocks to look at the questions that you are sending us in the chat box, and I will relay them to the speaker. So do not hesitate. Type your questions in the chat box, and I will relay them. So thank you very much, and without further ado, I will give the word to Geert, who will present NxtPort and NxtPort International.
Thank you, Michael. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Geert de Wilde, and I'm very happy to present today NxtPort International, the newly created international vehicle of NxtPort, building worldwide communities on a secure and trusted platform. We want to welcome you on behalf, let's see if the pointer works. We want to welcome you on behalf of the board members and management team. And if everything works, you could see that we have quite some experience on board in an international context. I don't see the, voila, here we are. So we have a nice board of directors and myself and Mark Noordhoek as management team, building on a solid international supply chain expertise. I think combined we have more than 160 years experience in an international field, so that looks very promising. I take you back to 2016 when NxtPort was founded in the Port of Antwerp by the private companies. At that time, it was revolutionary to see how companies could benefit from sharing data. And in the meantime, we estimate to have about that we will have about 2,000 users in 2021 on the platform, active users of about 500 companies in the Port of Antwerp and beyond. They are sharing private, B2B, and public data amongst each other. And we see that there is good collaboration starting between those different companies, looking for the real value in logistics. And that's possible, only possible, I would say, thanks to the good governance system which has been put in place at the days it was founded. So this is something we embrace. In the meantime, indeed, we had to scale globally, and that's where our efforts and energy and investments went to last year. Saying that we are secure by default. Of course, security is important to deliver that trust to the companies. The global scale is indeed something, as already announced by Michael, which we are capable of doing thanks to the joint participation of Vopak in NxtPort International. Now, there are many challenges going on today in supply chain. We all know the impact of COVID-19 on what we are doing on a daily basis. Of course, there's also the energy transition and energy storage, which is important and on our way ahead. We're looking into and having to deal with geopolitical decisions and impact on supply chain, and in particular as well a very challenging market in the oil and gas. Now we could look at it as problems, but we can also look at it as opportunities for us to bring the digitization on the table towards our customers. And the customers as such are multiple. They are really all the stakeholders in the supply chain. Not only in the ports, but also in the users, and especially in the users of the ports. We have seen that at the end, the beneficiary of doing business, of moving cargo, are shippers and consignees, where about 200 years ago, Industry 1.0 towards Industry 4.0 today, there has been a huge revolution, I would say, in that industry. And we can only see that logistics did not move in the same direction as quick as the customers of that same logistics and supply chain were moving. So that's where the gap is, and that's also where we have the opportunity now, thanks to data sharing and digitization, to bridge that gap. Now, to tackle all the problems at the same time would be very, very hard and difficult. So that's why we have selected, based on many interviews we had and also on many studies, we've selected what we call the drivers of change in supply chain. These are especially the points where we believe that data sharing could bring the difference on the table and really bring that efficiency gain to the customers they're looking for. Of course, global warming today, or let's say the last 12 months, has maybe been put a little bit aside due to the big impact of COVID on the supply chains, but it is still on the table. It is still in the boardroom. It is still on the table of supply chain managers, how to cope with it, how to organize supply chains in a different way. The driver shortage is a huge problem in the US as well as in Europe. We could say that an autonomous vehicle would be the solution, but we all know that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Legislation has to change, technology has to evolve, so we are not yet there. Large-scale cost reductions, clearly these have an immediate impact on the results of a company, so wherever possible, also the logistics cost will be cut. Challenging, I would say, in a market where you see ocean freights rising over the last few months. Competition always exists. 30 years, 100 years ago, there was as well competition, but today the competition is global. The solutions which are being offered in today's supply chain are not necessarily the one of your neighbor, but could come from another continent. And we all have noticed, I think, on our own behavior that there is a different kind of demand and behavior. We expect to be delivered tomorrow when we order something. This is thanks to e-commerce. So these are all opportunities today, I would say, in the markets. And where does NxtPort fit in? Well, if we look at our mission, it's clear that we have something to offer here. Thanks to the sharing of data between communities or between different stakeholders, there is this transparency which is much needed in a supply chain, which is not a chain of events, but it's basically a community of different stakeholders who are moving cargo and bringing that digital transparency to the customer. This could bring new revenues for companies who are taking and embracing this digital way of doing business. Innovation is something where it's difficult to innovate on your own, I would say. Of course, there's a lot of potential within a company, but there's much more if we organize it. And if we organize it around data sharing and the possibilities already on the table today, the solutions which have been built in the past, this offers really great opportunities for companies today to cut costs, to be more cost effective, and to be so more, to have more possibilities to sell their products. Safety of goods, safety of people also involved in the supply chain is also a result of this data sharing. Not having to key in data several times, but always have this data integrity over the supply chain brings definitely also, has definitely also a positive impact on the safety. And the most obvious, of course, and that's where most of the use cases are starting, is to find that efficiency gain by cooperating with different parties in the supply chain. So being here today within the Beacon, which is a great place to trigger innovation, I would say, with all the colleagues and companies on board, almost 90, impressive figure. NxtPort has been here indeed since the first day, and we are here to collaborate with all these companies and doing business together. Why? Because we really see that there is an added value by doing so. We understand the markets. I think that's important. We have the expertise, specific expertise around oil and gas, chemicals, but also about the technology which is being used, and also about the problems our customers are facing. Is it still normal? Can we still accept that an estimated time of departure of a vessel is being changed 3 times in the current world? That a custom clearance could still take up to 20 minutes to perform, whereas all the information is available on a container level in the NxtPort platform in the cloud, risking high fines due to mistyping. Looking at the Brexit, remember that photo of all those trucks queuing in front of the tunnel, whereas there are multiple solutions today to use short sea solutions. We could adapt the planning based on artificial intelligence, based on historic data, based on future predictions. Container which still remains in an average of 4 days on a container terminal, whereas we all expect to be delivered tomorrow. Can you still imagine this in today's world? Yes, we do, because it exists. And does it have an impact on the way we transport the goods, the solutions we are able to use? Think about synchromodality and intermodality, reducing the CO2. If I could just cut 1 day of the 4 days and use that time to bring the container by barge to an inland destination, that would definitely save us on CO2. Maybe not so much on cost, but definitely it is a better solution. More cost efficient, if you look at the way we are connected today, one-on-one interfacing to different stakeholders in that supply chain for those who are connected, we have seen, and this is just an average which we have seen with the customers of NxtPort, it's definitely not an industry average, 10 interfaces to be maintained, to be set up. Well, today, with one single connection to the NxtPort platform, we have more than 40 APIs who are ready to retrieve the data which you need for your specific solution. Definitely that is a direct and an indirect cost benefit. But also look at how much money could be saved of demurrage. Vessels, cargo, lying in front of a terminal, lying on the sea, waiting just to be unloaded or loaded. The cost is huge. The solutions are cheap compared to the cost and the benefits which you could save. So how do we do that? How is NxtPort working in NxtPort International more in particular? Clearly, there's a benefit by sharing the data more in advance. I think if you look at the example of doing custom clearance, waiting 3 days before a vessel arrives to have all the details available, while at the same time in the same cloud the information is already available at the moment a vessel is leaving New York, for instance, there could be a huge benefit and a huge cost saving also for the companies involved in that supply chain. And by having just one connection to the NxtPort platform, you not only connect to your direct to the company where you are doing direct business with, but you are also connected to all the other companies which are connected to the NxtPort platform. And this is also very important. This the platform thinking, which is live available today on the NxtPort platform. So one connection through one interface. Now we are adding through NxtPort International also the concept of one license, what we call our enterprise license. A company should only connect once to the platform to have on the same data backbone, data available in the different ports where we are running the different applications built on top of the NxtPort platform. Now, focus we need, because the market is so big, the challenges are so many, that we need to focus. And knowing the oil and gas and chemical business, we believe we really have added value on the table today by bringing the solutions and the data backbone to these customers in those different chemical and petrochemical hubs. LNG and ports definitely as well. There are opportunities here, and this is our main focus today. Does it mean we are not doing anything else? No, but this is our main focus today. Well, having a look then to how this would work, we talk always in our industry about end-to-end. End-to-end supply chain, end-to-end visibility. That's the final goal if we talk about transparency in supply chain. Having visibility on what's happening in this particular case on a container being shipped from Houston in the US to the port of Antwerp, connecting different companies in that supply chain to that specific community, in this case could be in Houston. Chemical companies, for instance, knowing that one interface, that one connection and that one enterprise license would connect all these different parties, still guaranteeing, of course, that data is only visible for those who have the permission to do so. Data is always being stored in digital vaults within the NxtPort system, and so it's not open and available to anyone, except when the data provider is offering, through a digital handshake, the possibility to share the data. So that data being shared with the buyer, for instance, in Germany, connecting all these different parties would be a great benefit for that visibility, but also for the way the cargo is being shipped at the end of the day. And the same is happening in Singapore, which is of course a big hub, not only for container business, but definitely also for liquid business and break bulk. And there are some opportunities as well in Australasia. So this is the way where today NxtPort is mainly concentrating on the European trades. NxtPort International will be focusing on these three areas. And so that's why I'm happy that we can confirm that NxtPort will be available in 2021, so this year, still this year, with 2 new regional marketplaces. One in the US, Houston being the most important port in the Gulf Coast, and Singapore, of course, as a hub in Asia. So we are not limited only to these marketplaces, but these are the places where we do put our first steps now to connect the different continents. And this is, as always, a coalition of the willing. This is not something NxtPort is doing on its own. This is something we are doing together with the different communities in those different places, but also with the Antwerp community. So let's have a dive into our API marketplace. But just one step back to 2016, where we put golden rules in place. And these golden rules will also apply for the customers of NxtPort International. Nothing has changed, and this makes us really different compared to all the other platforms which exist in the world. It's an open project by and for the community. Everyone who wants to step in has the possibility to do so. Whether you're a platform, whether you're a shipper, a consignee, a forwarder, you're welcome. Please talk to us, and we will see how we can connect you and how you can benefit from the data which is available in the platform, on the platform. There's a low entry barrier from a technical and financial perspective. We do not ask you to invest thousands of euros or dollars, but it's easy to enter. Just one single interface and subscription will allow you to share the data with the different stakeholders on the platform and within the different specific communities. Data governance, and this is most probably the most important part, data governance, secured and controlled. That's what I've mentioned. Data remains, or let's say the data provider remains the owner at any given time of the data available on the platform, which is being put in a digital vault in a controlled way, and through an audit trail can always be controlled what's happening with that specific data. We do believe in co-creation, and that is our reach out today as well with the members of the Beacon, and that's what we have done in the past and we will continue to do. We believe that the application should be built by the ecosystem. NxtPort is providing that data backbone, and we offer definitely the possibility to the different app builders, not only here in Antwerp, but it will also happen in the other places where we will have those marketplaces, because that's the big advantage if you have a marketplace in Houston. An app builder in Houston could offer his solution to the local market, but also here in Antwerp or in Singapore. So that's also an important, and we do strongly believe in APIs. So we have an API first strategy in place. It means that, well, APIs, I think, thanks to e-commerce, thanks to that last mile delivery, we have seen that the usage of APIs in the logistics world has increased considerably in the last year. This is now also happening in the maritime world, and NxtPort has adapted to these API first strategies since the first day. We always strongly believed in it, and we do believe that this is also the technology which enables us to grow the way we are doing today. Trust is very important in this world. You will never put your data somewhere where you do not trust. So we have put everything in place next to the governance model, next to the digital handshakes, to make sure that well, everything is being stored there where it has to be stored. We have the APIs on our marketplaces. These marketplaces will now then be available in the different on the different continents. We have the co-created solutions, or the apps, which can be third-party apps, which are also some building blocks which NxtPort has built in the past, for all cargo types and all actors. And so there is a liquid, there is a break bulk, and there is a container business. And all of that on top of an API-enabled data backbone with solid sharing logic. Connecting all these different parties, all these different stakeholders with that one single connection. Not only private companies, but also the authorities and third-party software. So does it mean that we are connected to everybody today? No, we are not. We are building, we are rolling out a system. We see that there's a lot of interest also of other platforms to connect to NxtPort. And this is, these are the ongoing discussions and the way we are building up NxtPort today. Now, we will not go empty-handed to the different parts of the world, because NxtPort over the last 4 or 5 years has already built a considerable number of APIs and solutions available on the platform. Adding multiple third-party application, we have about 40 APIs today which can be reached, which are available to the different markets. They're not all available, or they will not be all be available on the different marketplaces, as they are not all ready for this international process, but definitely that will happen in the future. So we will not go empty-handed to the other side of the world. So I think that's also important. Let's scale globally. This is not something we do on our own. This is something where we have partnerships. And we have a solid partnership since day one with Microsoft. And we're very happy to have seen the way we have developed with Microsoft over the last months, to them enabling us to do this internationalization. Adding new communities on the platform to scale the concept, the unique concept of NxtPort in the APIs. This is bringing new opportunities as well on the table towards NxtPort. The Azure products and solutions, which are there, which are ready, which are up to date, and we are co-engineering new solutions and support. And Microsoft is really supporting us in our growth ambitions. So we are very happy with that. And last but not least, I think it's also very important is the security aspect, because you're not a trusted platform if the security is not there. Next to the scalability, as I've mentioned at the beginning, there is also the security. We have security in our DNA. That's something I want to state here. We do regular code reviews. We have implemented different testings to make sure that once we bring something into our marketplaces, this is truly being tested, and also from a security perspective, acceptable. We will not compromise on that. And this is also the only driver where we would say a third-party application cannot be used in a particular ecosystem, because it's a security aspect. We are also very happy to announce that, well, it has been announced already, that we are ISO 27001 audited now and certified. So this is very important. We continue on a daily basis to invest a lot of money, and this is something we will maintain. So I would say join NxtPort International as a neutral digital platform which is open for your business, whether you're a shipper, a consignee, freight forwarder, a custom agent, or an app builder. Feel free to reach out. I think if you have international ambitions, we do see multiple opportunities with different ports around the world, where we do already have seen as well that we are doing business with about 10 companies here in the Beacon, and I believe we can increase that considerably. You do not have to be part of the Beacon to do business with us, but it facilitates the business. So we are open, ready, live, and available for your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Geert. Extremely interesting presentation, definitely. I've been informed that you might have to push on a button to pop out the chat functionality in the live stream. So if you haven't done that, that's still something you need to do. And I hereby confirm that the entire recording will be sent afterwards, so you'll be able to look at it again if you would like to. I don't see any immediate questions, but I have a couple of questions myself, starting by your last slide here. How do companies start? Do they just reach out to NxtPort with an idea? How do technology companies that want to develop an application start?
Yeah, we have, well, of course, if there are already ideas, I think that's we see sometimes app builders who are coming to see us to see whether we have specific data available. Always keep in mind that the data provider remains in charge of what he's doing with his data. So it's not that we can say, okay, we're open the vaults and here you have all the data of the Port of Antwerp. That's never going to happen. Each one has to give his consent to do so. That's through digital handshake. So it's a digital process. No, but most of the time what we see is that either a shipper consignee or a group, because most of the time it's in a community. Community is being built around a specific topic. Could be the chemical business who's saying, well, we have a manual process, but I also need data from someone who is involved with whom I do not have a direct connection. Or it's maritime data, or it's a trucking company, and we need the different data sets, which are most probably also not standardized. Mm-hmm. So in that case, we will facilitate a group where we will collaborate together, and we will invite app builders as well, those who have shown interest in the past, those who are available. We will invite them and put all of us around the table to find a solution or the most suitable solution. Obviously, we have already quite some stuff on the marketplace, which is available, but it's never going to be a 100% fit. There's always a part definite, specifically on the data formats, which has to be done. And so it starts with sitting around the table or having sharing ideas. That's where it most of the time starts, and that's how it goes. Okay. So we are, we receive most of the time requests, statements of ports, of communities, or detecting ourselves, because if you look, for instance, 10-15% demurrage, 3 to 4 times the ETD announcements. Okay, we have expertise in our company, but also within the ports, within the global supply chains, to bring it all together, to discuss, and to find a suitable solution.
All right.
That's what we facilitate as NxtPort.
So you're not a data broker, but you're a solution broker. You're not only a platform that imports and exports data, but you really are trying to broker a solution within a community of companies that have certain shared characteristics.
Yes, absolutely, and we try to find standards to determine which would be the best format to be used. Thanks to the API first strategy, of course, it's an adaptation process which could take a little bit of time to get everybody available, ready to be on a specific community. But once it's up and running, we do see as well how we can. Most of the time, you have version 1 and you go up. It continues because the efficiency gain which we can bring on building the solution together with the ISVs, the app builders, it's huge.
And you already mentioned that you will not disclose or share data without prior knowledge and consent of the owner of the data. So what's in it for a company that decides to share its data on the NxtPort platform? What do they get from it?
Our business model is not to sell that data. We are not here to sell the data which we receive from other parties. We facilitate, let's say, the transfer of data from one party to another. We want to bring that efficiency gain, the time to the market, the different benefits which I've shown, onto the table, and to make sure that the different parties who participate on the NxtPort platform by sharing their data receive the benefits by themselves. So if there is a benefit of 10% saving on the merge, that benefit is not for NxtPort. That benefit is for the users of that specific application. And that's where we do play our role as a community builder as well.
Clear. We have a question that's coming in on the chat box. Emily is asking, do you obligate a certain data standard for shared data?
Well, we have mentioned that there is a low entry barrier. So I would say no, we do not impose specific standards. Of course, we try to listen to the different users, the different potential users of an application, and try to make the solution as comfortable as possible. So that means that, of course, certain companies will have to adapt to the standard which has been chosen by, in most of the cases, that specific community. And a community can be a port, can be a group of companies, could be the chemical industry. Whereas, of course, there are a lot of ongoing exercises, I would say, like DCSA and others who are doing a great job on trying to standardize the container business. So we try, of course, to implement these standards, but we are not imposing them. It's the same as I mentioned, it's API first. Do we oblige everybody to use APIs? No. But we do have a strong preference. And one day, of course, we will come to the point where, it will be API. But today, the market is not ready for that. Okay,
clear. Perhaps a last question from my part. What are the limits for NxtPort International?
Well, the limits, I would say there is having a partnership with Microsoft. There is no technological limit, I would say. The limit is probably the mindset of the people using the platform, because you could imagine that there's a lot of use cases of business possible. We have a scalable platform. So it's difficult to put a number to say, okay, this is the maximum number of users. We have seen that in the past. We went from our platform 1 to platform 2 last year. It's also from a security perspective. It's very good now. We are very comfortable with the scalability. In that cooperation with Microsoft, we have the different regions, which will allow us to make the marketplaces available in the different parts of the world. So there's not really a limit on that one.
Excellent. And if you can start in Houston and Singapore, I guess there are not a lot of limits in geographical perspective neither.
There's no limit in geographical perspective, no. And we are agile. We are able to connect with different other platforms, because you will also always have local players, which are important. Each one has his role to play, so we do not believe that we have to come into a market and disrupt the market as such. No, we prefer to cooperate with others.
All right, clear. Well, Geert, thank you very much. Very interesting. I guess people will find you if they have additional questions about NxtPort.
Yes.
Thank you, Geert. So for the next block, we'll invite, as I said, 3 application developers that have already developed and are running an application on NxtPort. Welcome back. I have 3 really interesting people here. I have Jan van Doren, CEO of Port Plus, Troy Muishond, founder and CEO of Dogflow, and Luc de Klerk, co-founder of Sinvio. Let's have a lively debate about your experiences with the NxtPort platform, what your companies have done this far, and what your experiences are. Let's start with you, Jan. I think Port Plus is one of the most active application developers on the NxtPort platform. If you look at the website of NxtPort, you will see it. What have you done this far, and what applications are really groundbreaking?
Yeah, the main application goes by the name of NxtPort, and NxtPort improves the turnaround time of vessels in a port, any port, actually any type of vessel, but we focus on liquid because we believe that we can get the most benefit in that area. And what we actually do is we visualize the plant activities, the actual activities, the predictions on plant activities. We also give a collaboration platform, so allowing every single party working on the vessel or needs to do an activity on the vessel to have a look at or a view on the same view for all parties instead of having all the parties having their own view. And thirdly, we also provide in NxtPort a communication layer, so informing to stakeholders about an event that has taken place or will be planned or deviation of a planned activity. So that, and by doing those three, the combination of those three, we can significantly reduce the turnaround time of a liquid bulk vessel in a port.
All right.
And we use the services of NxtPort because it makes our life a bit easier, to be honest. Geert already alluded to the security, the data vaults, the intake, building the APIs to build the user interface. So we can focus on the added value to the customer, and the technology and security is more inside NxtPort.
All right. And sounding from what you explained, this seems to be quite a large project with a lot of stakeholders. You're working in a community as well, as Geert explained earlier on. How many companies and stakeholders do you have in this community for the NxtPort app?
In this community in total, if you only look at Antwerp, I would say that there would be in between 150 to 300 potential stakeholders. At this moment, we're working with with not as many as I just mentioned. We're working with 20 to 30 stakeholders, and indeed, you need to bring them together. You need to sit together, agree on with them to start sharing the data, and that's the first discussion. How do we share the data? What type of data do you want to share? And what's the most important thing? What's the benefit for you of joining the NxtPort initiative?
All right. I'll come back to you later on with more questions, but let's first hop to Troy. Troy, how did the collaboration with NxtPort start? Because I believe you already had an application with Dogflow. How did you came in touch with NxtPort, and what were the next steps?
Well, it's a funny story. When it happened, I think almost 3 years ago, when Dogflow was still very early stage, and NxtPort was also quite early stage too. We were working on a project for the Flemish Institute for Logistics around blockchain, supply chains, doing research and really building also a track and trace platform. There were a lot of stakeholders involved, and our job was to get a very specific, in-depth look in this shipping that was happening and all the happenings of the logistic activities. And we had to combine a lot of different data sources, and we worked together with NxtPort to integrate the terminal events from DP World, which was a very crucial data source at that time.
So it started that way, and where are you now?
So we started that way with brainstorming how we could integrate that one data source. But right now we are working together as partners. We're using a lot of their different data sources in many projects. And I think the main way we look at the relationship with NxtPort is they're really a partner for us. Like Geert has mentioned, it's very useful to have one contact point that is able to facilitate the data and help you with your innovative ideas. And that's really how our partnership has grown.
Okay, cool. I'll come back to you later as well. And first, welcome to Luc. Luc, your company could be labeled as a fintech company. Sinvio is active in payments. Could you describe that a little more in detail and explain how you interact and relate with NxtPort?
Yeah, sure, Michael. Yes, Synvio indeed is a digital wallet and payment platform specifically for the logistics industry, right? So we're really focused on that. And why is that? Well, one of the things Geert mentioned was new revenue streams. We believe that data brings opportunities to create new types of services, asset-based, non-asset-based, whatever you like. But these need to be paid. And in e-commerce, it's all about instant payments. Also in B2B e-commerce. So traditional payment methods like credit cards, mobile payments, they don't really work in B2B. So that's why we said, let's work with Synvio to help companies to launch themselves in B2B e-commerce with instant payment solutions.
Okay. And how is your interaction with NxtPort going? Are you also partners like Troy described?
Yes, we're partners of NxtPort. And the thing is, what we are trying to do is try to help other stakeholders in monetizing their ideas. How can you work with the data? Because just selling data is not the idea. It's selling a value-added service, but it's always based on data. And more data will become available in the coming years. So we believe there are lots of opportunities, for example, to develop subscription models. We're talking to stakeholders who suddenly say, why don't we start selling subscriptions, which in logistics is something completely new, but that's what we can enable. So innovation, yes, and we then try to make sure that the financial component is also added onto that.
All right. So you're actually working with the customers and partners of NxtPort
Yes.
platform to provide additional services
Yes.
aside from the mere sharing and using of data.
Absolutely, Michael.
All right, cool. Troy, Jan mentioned security as a very important aspect that NxtPort is taking care of. It's a relief. You said that you don't need to think about that. You can focus on the use case and the benefits for your ecosystem. How do you? What are your experiences on that point?
That's totally correct. It also adds a lot of credibility. We are an app builder, let's say, in the terms that Geert used. We're an app builder, and it gives credibility that your data is coming from a party as NxtPort that is focused on providing the most qualitative data possible. So that security aspect and that governance structure of NxtPort is really important.
All right. I'm very bad at multitasking, so it's easy to write things and remember things. But what I was writing is how do you see that in an international perspective? Because obviously, NxtPort grew from the local port of Antwerp, with support from the port of Antwerp, a couple of local stakeholders, customers, application developers. The ambitions are global. What would this mean for you, for example, and for Port Plus?
Well, a number of parties we are talking to in Antwerp, but also internationally, they say, yes, NxtPort is a great idea, but we can only use it if it's used globally or in the ARA region. So that means for us that we need to grow internationally and we need to take NxtPort along, but it's even better that NxtPort starts in certain ports and that we go along with it. So for us, it's a great support so that we can tell our customers, yes, we will come to your port, or we will cover the ARA region or the Singapore region or Houston region. That gives them comfort, absolutely, yeah? Because as Troy mentioned as well, for the international companies, they want to be sure that their data is secure in a secure vault and is not tampered with and not put on the streets, and that helps significantly. So they certainly confirm what Troy just said is that it gives them a relief also to international companies, but these international companies will only use applications when they can use it globally.
Yeah. I can imagine that big. Here talked about oil and gas, chemical industry, terminal operators. I can't imagine that these companies are using different applications and information systems in all the locations that they are, because they are present globally. All right.
Yeah, and we see that as well. If we talk to our stakeholders internationally, I mean, they all want to do certain things. The problems are more or less similar in different regions, but not every region has platforms like NxtPort available. So that would also greatly help us in developing ourselves nationally if we could tag along with the initiative NxtPort is taking to go international.
All right. And do you see, because you have developed an application now, which is working, it's obviously continuously improving. You're working with Antwerp stakeholders. Do you see other functionalities that you could develop on the NxtPort platform, or other added values that you could generate for the customers of NxtPort?
Well, for us, it's very simple. The more data that becomes available on such platforms, the more application builders will work with it and develop new service. So anything that generates new data, and a lot more intelligent devices will come along. So there will be a lot more data streams coming into a platform like NxtPort. So the more data, the more application builders will be attracted, and hopefully the more new revenue streams will be developed. So that's our aim, to assist with that.
But unfortunately, it's not always that easy to confirm the end user, the company or the shipping line or whatever, that it might be of their benefit, to share data, to receive information, to enter into a co-creation process like Geert illustrated to develop an application. Troy, Dogflow is working with many internationally active companies. How is your experience in that? Do these companies in the logistics industry see the benefit of innovation, development, co-creation, or do you have a lot of work that you need to put into into the discussion?
We have a lot of work. I think everybody in logistics working with technology has a lot of work to do. But I think like Geert mentioned, the limit is the mindset of the people. So right now, it's just very important for companies like us to focus on the early adopters. That's really a very important aspect of what we are doing. But I think the trend in logistics is that everybody's feeling that they should become partly a software company if they want to stay competitive. So I think at one part, we are going the right direction.
Yeah, but we also know, I think, that Jan will agree, I mean, that this sector is traditional. So it takes a lot longer to get certain things done, but eventually it will come, but it might take, well, when I started in this sector, I thought, well, in 1 year, 18 months time, we can change it. Well, we know it's going to take 3, 4, maybe 5 years, but it will come. But it just takes a bit more time in the sector and other industries. At least my experience.
Our experience tells us that most companies see the benefit, but it's mainly the intermediaries that are hesitant to either join the initiative or to share data. And my view is, as Troy said, those intermediaries need to start thinking, what do I do with data, and how to provide a service to my existing or future customers with the data I have access to. And so that's, I think they need to start thinking about what their business model is and what their function is.
Yeah. Some of these stakeholders, they start hiring now innovation managers outside of logistics, right? Who bring in completely fresh ideas, and then we go like, cool, new ideas, let's try and develop these. But that's needed. Also some outside in view of what can you do in the sector from people who have experience in different segments of the business.
Yeah, and I would like to piggyback on that, Luc, because that's also my experience at the Beacon with having, like I said earlier on, a little bit less than 100 companies, technology companies, but that are not necessarily all active in ports and logistics. Some of them are really into smart mobility. Some of them are in Industry 4.0. They don't have this affiliation with logistics and ports, but they can bring an outside view, an outside perspective, and perhaps new ideas to this industry. So I'm very much looking forward to that. By the way, if there are questions, just send them to the chat box. I'll try to keep my right eye on it and ask them to the panelists. Now, I've heard a lot of interesting exotic destinations from Geert, Houston, Singapore. What are the markets that you are looking at, just from your perspective, Jan, for example?
Actually, those two markets, for liquid bulk, then you need to have a look at, you need to involve Houston and Singapore. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And Troy?
Yeah, same for us. I think NxtPort definitely done their homework. Those are very interesting logistic hubs. So also for us, they are on the map, on the roadmap.
For us, a bit different because we're only 1 year in existence. So we also would like to focus on some neighboring countries like Netherlands, Germany, Poland, France, but definitely already exploring the Singapore market and the Asian market because there's a lot of intra-Asia traffic as well there, which could be interesting for us. So US may be a bit more medium term for us. All
right. Okay. Let me check my sheet because the conversation is going quite quickly. Perhaps how was working with NxtPort? I mean, it's also a startup company in a certain sense. They've evolved quite strongly in the past years, moved to another platform. Is it? Can you consider it as a really mature company with a lot of experience that you can work with and develop your application quite fast. How long did it take? Perhaps that's an easier question.
No, I think it's a very good question. We had to rethink our business, and you can consider Port Plus with Chronoport as a type of startup. And at the same time, NxtPort was also starting. So the learning curve was pretty steep, and we still have to learn a lot and move forward and change things. But so far we had no problems or issues with that, as long as NxtPort sticks to the golden rules as Geert explains, and they haven't changed since then. So as long as you stick to the principles, the practicalities they can change, but the principles are still in place, and that's so. Yeah, learning curve, but we're getting there.
All right. And you, Troy?
Yeah, same for us. But we get along very well with NxtPort because we're also in that startup atmosphere. So we also work in a very agile way, and they're always the ideal partner to talk about innovative ideas and to look ahead in the future in a chaotic way sometimes. But that's part of it. You have to be brainstorming, thinking ahead with new ideas. Yeah.
And Luc, you are a seasoned entrepreneur in logistics industry. This is one of your new ventures. What would be your, let's say, call to action or invitation to the to entrepreneurs, technology companies, and ports and logistics companies that are watching right now?
Well, I think everybody talks about digitalization, which is cool. So there's a lot of work to be done at that level. And my mission is always like, try and build something that doesn't cost 10 million euros. Build something that you can build with a couple of 10,000 euros, prove that it works, and then grow it exponentially, because that's what the sector allows. So don't be afraid. There is a lot of opportunity in this industry. If you have a great idea, do it. Do it. That's my advice to people who want to be active in this industry. So much opportunity. Just go for it.
Coming back to your earlier question, I think what Geert explained in his session is having Microsoft and Vopak on board increases the maturity immensely, and that should give us a benefit as well. So, yeah.
All right. Well, look, I have a question. Oh, it's a long one. So Guy is asking whether the panelists believe that data value will become as important as vessels as a revenue stream. So that's more reacting to what you said. And do you believe that the port data will be made available to third parties?
Okay. Well, does data have a value? Yes. But pure the naked flat data, to me, has very little value. Yeah. It's what you do with that data. And therefore, we look towards application builders to build really innovative stuff based on that data, using additional technology, whether that's machine learning, other stuff. That's where the value will come from, not from the pure naked data, in my belief.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's not the data that you sell, it's combining data that helps improving processes or new types of business, whether they're going to earn more money on the data or the combined data and vessels, to be seen. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Yeah, but will new revenue streams start to exist in the next 5 years? Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. But how important they will be, I agree with Jan. We'll see in 5 years' time.
Luc, you mentioned artificial intelligence, which is obviously a technology that could be inserted in a consortium of multiple partners with the application developer, for example, to strengthen the benefits of data and to get more result out of a certain data set or a combination of data sets. So that's very interesting. It's really a community consortium kind of thinking.
Well, artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be used more and more. When we look at our product, we are actually going into that direction. We implementing artificial intelligence and learning, because when you talk about port call optimization, you talk about a lot of vessels approaching your port, being in the port. So a human brain cannot contain that and make a planning around it. So you need assistance by artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. You need to learn from the people doing the activity and making decisions and implement that into your, and that's what we actually doing at the moment, yeah.
All right. I think we're nearing the end of this very interesting session. I don't know if any of you have last words, calls to action, messages to the audience.
I would say you need to join these initiatives, otherwise standing still is not an option. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would just add to that there are real solutions lying behind the corner. So it's time to innovate and it's time to improve. I think I want to repeat what I said before. Logistics companies have to become part software companies.
Yeah, and I think also what Gator said, cooperation is key. So cooperation between multiple actors will be key, and going international together with NxtPort, more than happy to do so.
Yeah, and I guess this is quite a unique situation in which a platform on which you can build your application is going abroad, is exporting its platform, but is also willing to carry you and your applications to other markets. So it's like somebody's doing business development for you.
Yeah.
So, all right, good. Thank you very much for this
Thank
very
you.
interesting debate. And we'll wrap up with Mark Noordhoek-Hecht, who is the Global Director Innovation at Vopak, and he will introduce two of his colleagues to discuss their partnership in NxtPort International and what it means for Vopak.
Very nice to be here. I'm happy to see that we are becoming, as Vopak, part of the Beacon community. I'm actually in transition in these months from Vopak, where I've been for almost 25 years, in this new marriage with NxtPort Antwerp, to see how we can internationalize this platform. But today I would like to basically share with two of my colleagues from the innovation team what digital transformation and innovation means for Vopak, and how this has elaborated into a platform strategy of which NxtPort is very much a part. NxtPort, Vopak, 5-6 years ago, made some very crucial decisions in the digital transformation, and we've embarked on a journey that has really brought us a lot of extra insights into our markets and opportunities for new business models. Vopak is very serious. It's a 405-year-old company, so it's a company that had to reinvent itself several times. But Vopak is very serious about the energy transition that we're seeing happening, but also the digital transformation in our markets. And our market, as a liquid bulk market internationally, has not really embarked on this journey as we see in other industries. So when I started 25 years ago, and we saw at that time how a vessel was handled in the port of Antwerp, or the port of Rotterdam, or the port of Houston, or the port of Singapore, today it's not going that much differently, actually. So we have a lot of IT systems. All the parties that work in the port have a lot of IT systems. But today there's still a lot of data silos. There's not real-time working. There's not that much transparency and data sharing taking place. But what we're seeing also as a result of COVID, that this is now accelerating. And all of our customers as Vopak are very serious about digital transformation and getting connected. So we are very happy within Vopak that we made some crucial decisions going to the cloud, building our own software, not being dependent on the ERP software providers, but building our own software for ports and terminals, and now embarking on a platform strategy. So I would like to just give a bit of an introduction into what innovation is within Vopak, and then hand over to my colleagues. So we have an innovation process which I think is very similar to many other companies in this industry, but also in other industries. So we start with business challenges from the front line of our business. So operators, customer service representatives, sales managers, engineers that are working on our sites. and what type of challenges are they facing on a day-to-day basis to operate their processes. And once we have an idea of those challenges, we are gathering data that is available around those challenges and start working with many companies, technological companies, startups, scale-ups, universities, to start solving these challenges. And that's what we call, let's say, the ideation experimentation phase. And we have agreed within Vopak, let it happen. Let these innovation guys do their thing, because learning is very important. Fail fast, fail often, as they say, is a very crucial aspect of innovation. Once we have learned enough around a certain topic, we're going into the pilot phase, and that's really implementation. So you're going to pilot a solution, a innovation at least one or two sites before you can say this is really a serious solution for Vopak worldwide. So today, I think we have done more than 350 proof of concepts, and almost without exception, we have done these with startups, like companies that are today in the call. And so we invite very much young companies that are data savvy, that have an interest in our type of industry, to work together and build these solutions. Today, I think we are working on about 30 to 50 pilots. So by the end of this year, we should have a number of pilots finished that are able to scale. And once we are able to scale, these solutions end up in our global web shop, where all the terminals can actually benefit from these solutions. And so that when we are successful, then this web shop is starting to fill up nicely. And I hope that we can work together with you as Vopak also to start working on solutions that are interesting for our entire network, and that we end up in this web shop. Basically, we can see that all the POCs and pilots that we've done and all the solutions we have now developed and are in the web shop can be tuned down to about 3 domains that are crucial for our type of industry. One is what we call asset and operations management. So that is our day-to-day operational processes at the terminal and our day-to-day maintenance processes at the terminal. Basically, you would like to have a digital twin of those operations and those processes to have all the data you need together, to give the frontline the data that they need to do their work properly, but to also have good oversight in what's happening. Asset inspection, that is really about our tanks, our pipelines, our jetties. Those are the crucial assets, the assets where we make our money. And they need to be inspected on a time base. Tanks, for example, every 10 years. But when you take a tank out of service, you don't make any revenue on it. So you would prefer to only take a tank out of service when it's really needed. For that, you need data. You need data, every data you can think of about a tank, from the design specs to all the inspections you've done, all the products you have stored, all the cleaning you've done, all the effects of weather and other effects that might have happened, rust formation that you can see. So you want to bring all of that data together to really go from time-based to risk-based. That's a big money maker for us. And finally, if you take tanks out of service, of course you want to have a very quick turnaround, so you can be as fast as possible back into the market with your tank capacity. So on those 2 asset domains, we are working with platform companies, actually startup, scale-up platform companies that have developed very interesting technology that is increasingly available worldwide. And we have some flagship terminals where we have started these platform setups. The last but not least, obviously, is our cooperation and our partnership with NxtPort to bring the NxtPort platform that is already running in Antwerp, that we very much like and subscribe to, especially also the golden principles. It's completely in line with how Vopak is looking at platforms. How can we bring that internationally to the US and Singapore? So with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague Bart van der Meer.
Thank you, Mark. As Mark described, I'll take you through, I'll go back, I'll take you to element 1 and 2, and starting off with 1. There's a little bit of a traditional environment that we have, which is our OT domain, our OT technology, operational technology, where you see all the traditional hardware that we operate to ensure that we can service our customers. And with today's technology coming along, you see that working our pumps, working our tanks, filling up vessels, discharging trucks, filling trucks, is more and more related to using sensoring, using the new technology out there to capture data. Not only to capture data for the purpose of collecting it for our customers, but also for us to manage the asset more efficiently and especially more safely. The more insights we have, the better we can operate all these hardware elements. However, this is all traditionally we have added sensors, and it all becomes very in a very vertical way. Operation systems, management systems for asset management, inspection, for ensuring that we can maintain it, and all these elements do not communicate to one another. So there's a lot of data that is siloed, and introducing the IT OT domain and linking this in a platform, so making sure all that data comes to one platform, is exactly what we're doing today. It's not only based on our traditional DCS systems, so our digital control systems, our terminal management systems, but ensuring it and enriching it with more information that is out there, like weather data, port data, bringing everything together on our asset platform. Why? Because if we get all this data together, we can start contextualizing this and making this more valuable in different ways. Some of the data collected for a pump can be very crucial for our customer to understand how we are performing on his vessel. In other ways, collecting data from a truck that just came into our facilities, collecting the data and checking it against all our safety standard is crucial for us and for our customers to ensure that we operate it and that we can load it and have it leave our premises in a very safe way. So combining this data and using this for various roles is where we actually gather, where we create the value. It's not only about safe operations, it's not only about contractor management, but it's bringing everything together and building applications on that to even make it work better. And this structured way of working is rather new to us. We see that combining this data is still a challenge, and we're learning every day and talking to others and having developers assist us with combining data to something new, to something really valuable information for customers and for ourselves is where the new elements of the way we operate is really embarking. So bringing this all together and creating this value from all the different data elements is very important. And we try to do this in a very easy way, very structured way, and using technology that is already out there. So in some cases, things are not new. Sensors aren't new, but making sensors available on a low-cost way, looking at how we operate today, and everyone is used to his mobile phone and NFC technology or barcoding or taking a picture, is something that we are now bringing to our environment in the industry, and that is rather new. Specifically for linking this, what we are doing to an initiative like NxtPort is the element I will focus upon on 1C, the transfer of product. When we load a ship, when we or discharge a ship, there's a lot of traditional paperwork. And we want to get rid of that because paperwork is difficult, especially outside when it rains or when it's dark. Paper gets wet and the operator handling that has to fill it in. So it makes it very difficult to capture proper data. But it's also very slow because it's printed, it's on the paper, it may be scanned and mailed to customers, but that is about the level that we are used to. But today, with the mobile technology, bringing everything together on a tabletized manner really helps, and getting connected, getting the operator in his environment in a ruggedized, intrinsically safe tablet so that he can capture data, not only enriches that and makes it a lot easier because it always works, it works in rain, in night, you can easily capture the data, but it's also that we can share this very easy. Once it's in that tablet, we can bring it to our own platform and from there hook it up to anyone who needs it. Using the API, we can provide the data to anyone who is in need of the data. If it's about a ship coming in, the customer wants to know, is it there? Can we start? But also pilots want to know, can we leave or do we need to bring in the tugboats? So gathering all that data on a tablet by the operator, it's immediately accessible, and it also helps to limit the paperwork. And there's a lot of data exchange that we can do. It's about all these documents that are out there. It's the loading agreement, the discharging plan that we've set up, and we've digitized that on a tablet or on a platform, and we share that with our customers and the port authorities, so everyone has the same information. So it's a single version of the truth that we are communicating. But also, things like note of protest. That is something that is traditional in this industry. If you do not agree, you file a note of protest. But where is it and for what is it and who sees it? If you do that digitally, you can immediately share and everyone sees, hey, something's wrong, we may need to interfere. So all these elements of digitizing all this paperwork, traditional paperwork, really speeds up the process and gives a lot of transparency in our industry and the way we operate. So bringing this tablet to the operator and allowing him to do to ensure that we get a safe ship-shore conference, that is a mutual agreement that you have to do prior to your operation. Digitizing that in picking that up from the ISCOT, which is an international standard format of doing this worldwide, is something that we have now digitized and can relay to other platforms and reuse that capability. Another important element we have is the second platform. It's the inspection and maintenance platform, where we gather a lot of data using new technologies. And here we have some examples of drones flying underneath our jetties, collecting data of the status of the jetty and bringing that to an inspection platform. We do the same for tanks and for other assets, but bringing all this data into one platform makes our life easier and takes away the out-of-service time of these assets. If we have a jetty and it needs to be inspected traditionally by a diver, it means there can be no vessels around the jetty because that's too dangerous, but also the diver itself diving and working underwater is a risk. So we want to minimize that. We want to ensure that we can collect the same data using new technology in a safe manner and diminishing the out-of-service time dramatically so that we can maintain our operation, can still create revenue, but also get more insights of the status of that asset. So if we have to take it out of service, we truly know what the status is and we can rapidly repair and put it back in service in a much more planned, structured way than in the past. We don't have to wait. We know everything that is to be expected and can really do this in a rapid, safe way. So these elements are very important for us, and this is fairly new to the industry. Bringing all that inspection information together is new, so there's challenges in how do you collect the data, how do you collaborate with various inspection firms, how can you make sure everything lands in the same platform, but also how do you interpret it? Can you use AI technology to interpret the data? Because taking pictures is something we've been doing in the past, but now we get so much picture that you want an AI module to interpret the data from that picture and give you advice on the next steps. A man cannot judge 1,800 photographs, where in the past we would only take 5. But on these 1795, there's a lot of information that we never had and that we want to pull off the photo. So having AI algorithms and companies helping us to develop those algorithms to interpret that data is something that we are really looking for. And maybe someone's out there who can help us with this. I think I mentioned all the elements that are important in this structure. It is about safety, very important for the way we operate. We have to do this safe because of the goods we handle, but also our customers require that, and you want to make sure you do it in the most efficient, safe way. But also we see that there's a huge cost reduction if we have more impact on gathering all that data and bringing it to the platform and ensuring that we can take proper decisions up front. So eliminate all surprises and shorten our out-of-service time. So I think we've touched on all the subjects, at least on my area of expertise around assets and inspection. And I'll hand over to Eric to do the logistics part.
Thank you, Bart. Obviously, it's very important to use all these data that is captured by all these new devices in order to use it in the supply chain. And from Vopak, it's very important that we not only look at optimizing what's happening at the terminal, but really on the supply chain. So together with customers, with surveyors, etc. If you see that it's around 40 to 50 companies working together on handling a vessel, that's a huge potential for working together. And that's why we want to take the initiative in this role. If we look at what is happening, and there's a kind of generic challenges which you see everywhere. It's for every mode of transport. It's for vessels, for barges, for trucks, and for trains. Always these questions like, hey, when does it arrive? Hey, what we call this estimated time of arrival. And it's interesting to see if you compare the data which is known at the port authorities and at the terminal and the agent, they sometimes have huge difference about what is called the estimated time of arrival. I'm happy that my car gives only one time of arrival. We get a lot of questions about when do you start the pumping activities and when do you expect the finishing the pump activities. And as you see at the bottom, it's either by phone or by chat or by email. A lot of questions come to the customer service always asking these kind of questions. Whereas I would say, hey, let's turn it around. So only give a kind of indication what is the changed time for the start and time for the finishing rather than calling this information all the times. Always questions about what is the actual status, where are you? And to be honest, sometimes it is kind of black box, what's happening at terminals, and then people are surprised that hey, it may finish after 6 hours or something. And what's important after we finish the work at the terminal is the time of departure, because many other companies within the supply chain depend on our time of departure. Where it goes to, the pilot needs to go on board, etc. We have to finish all the documentation, and the vessel has to sail to another terminal to do the work over there. So that's really linking the supply chain, the time of departure. All of the questions we have is about optimizing the planning. That's not only planning at the terminal, and we put a lot of effort in there to make the planning more efficient. We gather the data, apply artificial intelligence to that, to be more predictive on about what is the size of the volume we need to pump, etc., and to predict the time of departure. Where here it's working together. The surveyor have their planning as well, the tugs have their plannings as well, the pilots do have their plannings as well. It's all combining these individual plannings. And then, as Jan already said, it's about combining it into total port call optimization. And one of the things we investigated is about the delays and the demurrage, which is related to that. And I will come back to that later, because there's a huge amount of money involved in that use case, how to reduce the demurrage. So we did investigation how we can avoid the demurrage, rather than at the end having this statement of facts. Hey, this is what happened to the vessel, this has happened to the order. Let's give some insights how we can avoid those delays. And one of my personal annoyances in the supply chain is how can we avoid to retype the information. there's a huge bundle of information documented on printed papers, etc. One company is printing the papers, handing it over, and another company is typing all the information again and again and again. So a lot of manual work from that perspective and not adding value. And so the lean principles are very relevant for this, how to avoid the delays, how to avoid the waiting, etc., and how to avoid the double work. If we look at one of these examples we're working on, we call it a vessel visibility solution, had NxtPort in the middle, assuring that all the information is passed on a correct and secure way. As we have the use case from the customer working together with the terminal connected to the vessel, and we have an app builder which adds value with this application. So we said, hey, well, you need specific parties, and here you see in the small characters the business case, maybe about 50 million euro of dollars per year for one customer. So there's a huge volume of money in this particular use case. You have to work together with the customer and all those supply chain partners in order to reduce the merge. So we started by setting up a kind of application for this, which we very nicely called the Beacon. It's a kind of honor to the Beacon here. But we said it's the Beacon AI of the artificial intelligence, where we have the NxtPort underneath and powered by NxtPort, as we say. It's gathering all the data with APIs, gathering it automatically, real time, and then it's applying the artificial intelligence, analyzing the data, and then investigate, hey, do we foresee some issues, some things that can happen which will cause a delay, rather than making a conclusion after the fact that the delay has occurred. Now we want to be beyond, prior to the delays. So this is a kind of nice application which we are launching now in Houston at the moment with a customer, together with the Vopak terminal, combining all the data, giving it nice examples and explanations. These are the delays we foresee for your particular order, for your particular vessel. And the first reactions of the customer are really totally enthusiastic, because they say, we now finally have the tools available for us to manage all these actions and to avoid the delays. And if we now look at how do we link this visibility towards the NxtPort, it obviously is about authentication and authorization. We need to be very sure that who is using this application, who is using the data, is really the person he says he is. It's crucial for us. As Geert already mentioned, it's totally based on API calls, so we need to have these API calls to the relevant parties. How we have the vessel visibility, but in the meantime we're also setting this up for the rail visibility. There we have data providers for the rail information as well. The trusted vaults are crucial for us. Companies are sharing the data and they need to be in control of the data. They still need to be the owner of the data and deciding who they want to share it to. Do they want to share it to this vessel visibility application? Do they want to share it to, for instance, the Chronoport? Do they want to share it to another application? They need to stay in control. Potential monetization, just touch it on it here. There's value, as it was said earlier. There's value in the data. What do you do with the data, etc. And this will allow us to build the communities worldwide. In Houston, we started working together with, obviously, the Vopak terminals, but also with a customer, a surveyor, had the data providers on the vessels and the rail information. So now that is the first community, and we're also setting up those communities in Singapore at the moment. And last but not least, it is the invitation to all of you, whether you're either an app builder, a data provider, or whoever, it's co-creating. That's really where we believe in. It's not doing things ourselves. Together you unleash your potential, and that's really the invitation for all the parties that want to join the communities and setting up these adding value applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bart and Mark as well. Extremely interesting presentation that well exceeds what NxtPort is doing. So I'm really happy to hear that a large established company like yours is taking the lead in terms of innovation and is inciting other companies to join ecosystems and consortia. Mark, one of my main, in my humble experience, one of my main experiences is that you often are in situations in which you have shared interests with other parties and you acknowledge that there is an issue and everybody acknowledges that there is an issue and that something should be done, but nobody takes the first step to remediate, to innovate, to develop something new. I guess you have a lot of experience in taking that first step. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So first of all, within Vopak, it's a struggle sometimes because a lot of our colleagues within Vopak are operating terminals, and that's their job, right? That's their P&L that they have to worry about. And we as an innovation team are looking a bit further ahead, maybe way ahead. So first of all, it's been a struggle for us within Vopak, but I think we have succeeded in the sense that we see that the whole of Vopak company now becomes from the top down, becomes a real data-driven company. Mm-hmm. They see the importance of data, the value that is in data, and especially in data sharing. And Vopak also within the joint venture with NxtPort has acknowledged that our competitors and Vopak should have the same access to the data that is available in the market. And so there should not be any differentiation of parties on the NxtPort platform. We very much believe in that. Because we believe that you can only solve these very challenging puzzles, which the supply chain of liquid bulk is. You can only solve that together. So what we have now started, what Eric showed with Beacon AI in Houston, that's really forming the community. And the community starts with, let's say, some front leaders, Vopak and Lyondell in this case. But very soon there will be other customers, we're sure of, and very soon there will also be other terminal companies. Yeah. And the community decides basically what's going to happen with this application. And very important there is the golden principles of NxtPort, that if you are the data owner, the data provider, you stay in control of the data. So you're pretty sure that your competition has no access to the data. The right customer gets the data at the right time, etc. So that's the trust factor is very important in our industry.
Well, it seems like you took this concept of ecosystems and consortia quite far, because it's one step to interact with your supply chain partners. That's one thing. Then it's a next step to involve third parties, but you also in some way involve your competitors in a certain sense for the bigger benefit of the industry and of transparency. That's amazing.
It's one of the interesting questions. We work on some applications which really drive the safety in the supply chain, safety on vessels. And then there's this question, should we keep the information for ourselves? And we said, no, we have a leading role in this. If we can make other companies more safe, that is our responsibility as well. Yeah.
Well, that's a very valuable way to look at sustainability, at the concept of sustainability.
Exactly.
Making the entire industry more safe, more prosperous. But you, in a jiffy, described a lot of very interesting projects. Mark, you mentioned that you have, I noted it well, 350 proof of concepts and 30 to 50 pilots ongoing, which are massive figures. Do you manage it as an ecosystem as well, or are these all individual one-on-one projects between Vopak and one technology company, for example? Or do you have like a sustainable strategy in which you try to involve these companies in different projects and contact them one to another?
Yeah, so we found, especially when we started, that it is quite good to work with startups and scale-ups. We have agreed within Vopak that we can play as close as possible to the operation as well. We can fill and fill fast, fill often. And we have targeted that on what we call the flagship. So in Houston, Singapore again, and Rotterdam, Antwerp. Those are the hub locations where we have quite large organizations. So we have resources available to cooperate in these projects. And then when we go to the pilot phase, it's important to get really expertise from the terminal on board. And that's when you start spending some serious money. So then, of course, some governance is also important. So then it doesn't help if you do that worldwide. You have to do that in these concise locations. And that's how we evolved into the platform thinking. Because once you have a platform, a data platform, you can bring all of that data that you extracting from your assets, from your processes, from your systems, you can bring it together. And then suddenly the value starts appearing, right? And then you can build applications, and again, there also we working together with app builders, with AI companies, etc. Yeah.
Eric, you mentioned rail transport, because you know, when people, and I'm just talking about myself, when I think about NxtPort, I always think about vessels, maritime transport, but it extends further down the value chain. How do you see the future for that? How far can NxtPort, its platform and its data go down the value chain?
Yeah, so we, as Vopak, we handle had the 3 modes of transport. It's the vessels, but seagoing, but also the barges at the inland. And it's a rail, obviously, and it's trucks as well. All of them are very important. Vessels is more important because of the volume, but rail and trucks are more of the volume of the product, and the other ones are more the volume of the number of occasions that happen. So rail for us is also very important. Hey, we also want to see when are the rail cars planned to arrive. I'm still surprised in the Netherlands that I cannot see where are the rail cars going. It's not publicly available yet. There's no devices on the rail cars, and I see that many companies are taking initiatives to put devices on the rail cars in order that we can detect where they are. So that technology, and that's the bridge also to the assets, that is important. We need those assets to put them on in order to be able to track them. And then we can apply that data in optimizing the supply chain. So for Vopak, really, all the 3 modalities are very important. Yeah,
that's quite promising.
Yeah.
So you stepped into this joint venture of NxtPort International. You put skin in the game. What are your expectations?
Yeah, for me it is very important because what we say, there's a couple of fundamentals to get this going. One is you need some parties who want to work together. That's a crucial one, which is in the minds of the people. Then there's certain standards about sharing the information, and we don't there yet. There's really a lack of global standards on that. And then there's a kind of platform to enable this sharing on a secure and digital way. That's for us the crucial decision to step into NxtPort and work together on that part. And we have that available now. It is proven in the Antwerp, in the Belgium area. So now we can step up and make that a broad solution, a global solution.
All right. I guess, yes, you can watch again on demand. We will provide a full recording with a link, then you'll be able to watch it whenever you want. If there are any questions, please shoot them in the chat. I have the box here, and I will relay the questions. But in the meantime, I'll just continue with my own observations, if that's okay with you. We had approximately 150 subscribers for this event, so that means that a lot of people are interested in what NxtPort International brings to the tech and ports and logistics community. What would be your call to action or your message to these companies? What's the next step that they should take after this meeting?
Yeah, that was my immediate reaction, not only what is bringing NxtPort International to them, but what are they bringing to NxtPort International. So it is the knowledge about all of these transports, etc. It is they can provide the data to make it happen. They can say, hey, I want to initiate or co-create some certain applications on that. It can be end users, consumers of that, so it's multiple factors. So I really believe in this co-creation part, and as we said, we focus now to start on the Houston area and on the Singapore area. So if they have connections over there, really, please address them to us, and they're heavily invited. Yeah.
All right.
I think as an app builder or as an AI company, if you're interested in this type of environment, port business, liquid bulk, which is a global trading community and supply chain community, there's so much to be done there. And I think also the colleagues from Chronoport have alluded to this. I think there's gold for everybody, right? And once you bring that focus, I think there's a lot that you can do. And with NxtPort International, whatever your solution is, whether you start in Antwerp or you start in Singapore or in Houston, you can immediately internationalize it because our market is international. The customers that we service often are in 25 to 45 different ports. And if they can work in all those ports with the same type of solutions, in the same type of networks and ecosystems, that's a huge advantage. So I think it's an interesting time this coming 2-3 years for our industry at large, because everybody is looking at digital transformation and energy transition. Some way they go hand in hand, because energy transition is going to lead to different supply chains altogether. So I think that the two can really strengthen one another in development. But I think it's going to be a very interesting time.
All right. Bart, any last observations?
No. Maybe one. I think what is very important for us in our industry is to understand the power of mobile. And I think we are only discovering the potential that the mobile device has, even for the worker, and we're not too much aware of that yet. Bringing that, and especially with the API structures and everything we can capture in one go by the guy executing, is really where we need to make sure that we can disclose the information. So for us, it's very important to bring that to the floor and start creating the value of that device.
All right. Well, it's been extremely interesting. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to this. And what you all said about co-creation is what we want to do in this campaign, bringing stakeholders together, tech companies, but also companies in the port, in logistics, in transport, to develop new and better applications. That's the entire purpose. Thank you also for sharing a broader view on the innovation strategy and activities of Vopak. It's extremely interesting. I would, you're welcome to pitch any challenges, ideas, suggestions to our community. Many companies are just looking forward to provide solutions to assist you and to co-create into new solutions. So thank you very well. I guess this was the first time, but we'll see each other quite often in the future. Thank you.
Thanks.